All right, let's get started. Thank you, everybody, for coming to today's AgeTech webinar. GrandCare Systems is your host. I'm Laura Mitchell from GrandCare Systems, and today we have Jeff Makowka from AARP speaking on our behalf on the GrandCare webinar, and his topic is an overview of AARP's Innovation at 50 Plus program. But before we get started on that, just a couple items and housekeeping here. First of all, we have two sponsors today. We have AgeTech Alliance, and Peter Radsliff from AgeTech is going to be available to talk with us a little bit more about that, and Harper Technology Group, another one of our sponsors today. So before we get to our sponsors, though, I just want to draw your attention to a few things here. First of all, what I'm showing you right now is how to use the WebEx platform here. If you have any questions at all for the speaker or for GrandCare Systems or for AgeTech or our sponsors, please post them under Q&A. Don't post them under the comment section because they won't be queued for the questions at the end. If you would like to share any information about yourself, we ask you to share it under chat. And that's really why these calls were designed, so that we could share information with each other, network, learn from each other, and share information about our organization. So if you could take a moment to share who you are, where you're from, a little bit more information about your organization under chat, we would greatly appreciate it. A little bit more information about these calls is they started back in April of 2008. They started out as a simple conference call, and the notion was so that we could all talk while we built this brand new category of aging and technology. Well, they've grown since then into a webinar, and in fact, these webinars were how the AgeTech Alliance was formed. And the AgeTech Alliance was formed just a few years ago after Peter Radsliff, our current chairman of the AgeTech Alliance, spoke on the webinar about the idea of co-opetition, really what these webinars were all about. So Peter spoke on that, and AgeTech grew and became what it is today. And you'll hear more about AgeTech in just a minute. One more item here. We actually are seeking speakers for spring and summer of 2012. So if you're interested in speaking on an aging technology relevant topic, or if you know somebody who would be a great speaker, please contact us, info@grandcare.com, and we'd love to hear your thoughts and suggestions. Also, we have sponsors for these webinars. Now, as you know, GrandCare does not charge anything for these webinars. We do them for free for the industry. So if you appreciate these webinars and you'd like to support them and give your organization a little push during the webinars, we'd love to have you as a sponsor. It's only $50, and then you can actually give a pitch during the webinar, as well as we'll send out your information with all of our social media. So please contact us, info@grandcare.com, if you're interested in learning more information about that. Next week, we have Ron Repking of Capable Networks speaking on customer engagement in 2012, leveraging social media and online communities to expand and retain your customers. So that's who's next week, and we've got our entire GrandCare webinar schedule on our blog, which is grandcare.wordpress.com. You can find out more information about that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and have Peter. Peter, are you there? I'm not hearing you. Just one second. Try now.
Hi, how's that? Can you hear me now?
There you are. Okay, yep. Go. Hold on just one second. Let me pull up your slide here. Yep, set, wrong slide. There we go. Okay, go ahead. Can you tell us a little bit more about our sponsor? Thank you so much for sponsoring. Tell us a little bit more about AgeTech.
Well, probably most of your 40 attendees have heard my voice on here before. Again, I'm Peter Radsliff, CEO of Presto Services and chairman of the board of the Aging Technology Alliance. And I work with Laura, every week to advance the aims of AgeTech, which is a trade organization for companies like GrandCare and like Presto that are trying to learn best practices, help each other through co-marketing programs. Many of us who are actually involved in AgeTech have created co-marketing arrangements or distribution deals or other things to help advance the aims of our companies, and that's why AgeTech was formed. It is a trade organization, and so...
Hey, Peter, you're cutting in a little bit, cutting in and out, and you could be a little bit louder.
Okay, well, let's try this. Is this any better?
Yeah, that's a lot better.
Okay. So we are trying in the Aging Technology Alliance to bring business success to all of the member companies. But really, you get success out of it the more that you participate. And the 7 members of the board of directors are the ones getting, right now, the most benefit from AgeTech, because we're the ones who are deep, with our hands deep into the muck, if you will, of working together every week. And so we really encourage a lot of the other members to jump in and join committees, try to, if they have a particular thing they think would help their company, form a committee and start working towards those ends, and we will help get those started. We also have a lot of strength through collective action. We have a marketing agency called Continuum Crew, who is the agency for AgeTech to help us, get our message out, the different messages that we have. And we've received a lot of support from organizations such as Jeff and AARP, thank you very much, at the Consumer Electronics Show and elsewhere. And we're starting to do a lot of different, attack a lot of different projects together, different companies and organizations in the Alliance. So for those of you who have not joined, it's very inexpensive to join. Just go to agetech.org. That's agetek.org. And/or if you have any questions, post them here on the webinar, or give me a call, or send me an email. I'll post my contact information over in the side for everybody to see. And with that, Laura, one last thing I'd like to say is next week's seminar, first of all, I'm thrilled to hear Jeff today, but next week's seminar with Ron Repking will be very interesting. He's actually the company behind Presto Place, which is the independent user community that has formed around my company's product, Presto. So I'm going to be really interested to hear what he has to say.
Okay, great. Thank you, Peter.
Sure.
Thank you so much. And I want to say a little bit more about GrandCare. GrandCare, like I said, is our host and started these webinars. And again, I'm Laura Mitchell. I'm the VP of Marketing for GrandCare Systems. And GrandCare is just a digital home health technology where we place a system into the home of someone that's trying to stay independent. And it communicates with various sensors, everything from smart home sensors that can turn on and off lights and on and off appliances, to telehealth devices, to activity of daily living sensors. And the caregivers can monitor this information, and meanwhile, they can send communications, pictures, messages, emails, and Skype into an interactive touch computer. So that's a little bit more about GrandCare here. And I've got our other sponsor today is actually Harper Technology. And I'm not sure. It looks like I don't see Jude that has dialed in here. Jude, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about Harper Technology, and thanks so much for sponsoring today's webinar.
Well, first off, I want to thank everybody for attending, supporting not only you guys, but the communities and the cause at large. Specifically, I'd like to just give a shout-out to Jeff. I was fortunate enough to meet Jeff when I was down in Washington, D.C. a few weeks ago, and I never got a chance to say goodbye to him. So I want to thank him for his hospitality, his organization, and also in supporting us. Harper Technology Group, what we do is we're doing a lot of, recently, a lot of budgeting, a lot of different ways for helping people kind of make some sense on how to apply these opportunities that people like GrandCare supply in their facilities, in their homes. But, rather than talk about us, I just rather talk about what this month is. And it's a Heart Healthy Month, heart awareness, and there's a lot of technologies out there, whether it's email, simple systems, or more comprehensive systems like GrandCare to help feed people. It is Valentine's Day coming up. We're running a promotion here. And basically, I just want to remind people to love themselves, because when you treat yourself well, you'll bring balance into your relationships, whether they are near or far. And it is okay to take care of your own needs. And when you do so, you will respectively not neglect the other side of all your relationships. So, basically, in the end, if you don't care for yourself, who will? And when you put that demand on somebody else, that's selfish, and that causes chronic stress and conflict. So basically, from all of the people here at Harper Technology Group and our partners, We just ask you to open your heart during this month to the innovation that is available and enjoy the peace, love, and harmony of a life better lived. So thank you for attending.
Oh, thanks, Jude. Okay, just a few announcements that we've got going on here. A couple exciting things. Speaking of AARP, GrandCare was selected as the 2012 Sterling Award winner, which was sponsored by AARP for Health and Wellness, and we also were selected as the People's Choice Award winner, which was the Silver's Choice, also sponsored by AARP. A couple upcoming events, and again, if there's anything that's upcoming here that you are going to be at that you'd like people to know about, make sure to post it actually under the chat section, but also contact us, info@grandcare.com, if there are things that we're missing that we should have added into our upcoming events. But the HIMSS conference is going on at the end of this month. It's February 20th to 24th at the Venetian in Las Vegas. GrandCare is going to be there. We're not going to be exhibiting, but we'll be there. So ping me if you're planning to go to that. Also, the HX, the Electronic House Expo, that's something that GrandCare has pretty much gone to every single year. We're not going to be exhibiting this year, but I am going to be speaking along with Alex Go from My Virtual Health and Jeff from AARP will be speaking on a panel on hospital readmissions and avoiding hospital readmissions using technology solutions, telehealth solutions, and the role of an integrator or a value-added reseller in that piece as a piece of the puzzle. The What's Next Boomer Summit, I could not recommend this one enough. This one is in Washington, D.C. this year. This is one of Mary Furlong's events, March 28th. This is one of the best industry events that I think I've attended. Sponsors include AARP, Southwest, GrandCare, Best Buy, Continuum Crew, lots of great sponsors, lots of great high-level and smart, educated people that are at these conferences, and they're highly motivated and educated on the needs of and wants of the boomer population. So it's really interesting to have conversations. And it's a one-day conference. You can still sign up to exhibit if you'd like. It's a pretty low cost to exhibit. And you can still sign up to sponsor. And I believe that I just heard today that they are extending the early bird deadline. So it's not too late to sign up. Boomersummit.com is where you go and do that. It's going to be a great event. And it actually is right before ASA, the American Society on Aging Conference. So highly recommended that one. And then the CEDIA Expo, which GrandCare plays a big part in every year, as I help to arrange the digital home health panels and tracks, and we're doing that again this year. There's going to be a 2-hour workshop on digital home health and the role of integrators, and then there's going to be a 90-minute workshop on recent healthcare legislation, the problem with hospital readmissions, and the role of the integrator with integrating technology solutions into that as a part of the solution to that problem. So anyways, this is a little bit more information. Please let me know if there's anything I'm missing again on these upcoming, if there's any upcoming shows. I know that the National Association of Home Builders show is happening fairly soon. Lori Orloff just posted that, and I believe that she is actually speaking at that. So that's Orlando, February 8th. Highly recommended. I believe Lori's speaking, and she always does a fantastic job. Okay, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get to our presentation today. The reason why we all are joined together today is to listen to Jeff Makowka from AARP. He's part of the AARP's Innovation at 50 Plus program. And in late 2010, AARP created a new group that was focused on thought leadership with the mission of exploring and establishing new ways in which AARP can achieve its social mission, which is to improve the quality of life for all as they age. The Innovation at 50 Plus program is the group's flagship campaign to engage both the investment and the entrepreneurial communities to stimulate innovation to meet the needs and wants of people over 50. So just a little bit about Jeff. He's had over a decade of experience in strategic analysis, management consulting, and market research. For over 5 years, he has been focused on the wants and needs of the 50 Plus, both domestically and internationally. As the senior strategic advisor in AARP's newly formed Thought Leadership Group, he supports AARP's Innovation at 50 Plus program, which aims to spark innovation and entrepreneurial activity across public and private sectors. Anchored by AARP's social mission to enhance the quality of life for all as we age, the program enlists the expertise of visionary aging technology thinkers and builds the business case for all sectors to collaborate on meeting the wants and the needs of people over 50. So with that, I'll let Jeff go ahead and take the floor.
Great. Thanks very much, Laura. Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Jude. Jude, sounds like I owe you a hug. I apologize for not saying goodbye, but I'm sure we'll see each other soon, and we'll be able to follow up that. I'd also like to thank everybody for taking the time to join us today. I'm very excited. I'm a very fervent supporter of AgeTech and its mission and what you guys have been doing for the industry. And we're excited to try to talk a little bit more about what we're doing here at AARP to try to support the industry and, again, to sort of stimulate innovation and real solutions for people that helps improve their quality of life as they age. And I'm sure most of you have probably heard of AARP, especially if you're in this space, but I think what I find when I'm talking to people is that they don't always know the story of the brand or how AARP was created. So I'd like to take just a couple minutes to talk about our founder, Ethel Percy Andrus, who started AARP actually as a reaction to a rather stark situation that she found herself in. A little bit about her: she was a lifelong educator and visionary. She was the first female high school principal in the state of California, which was fascinating. It was down in East LA. It was mostly a multicultural school, and she came in and she revamped their entire educational process and improved the graduation rates dramatically in her time there. As she grew older, through some caregiving experiences she had with her own mother, she really forged a core belief that people need to age with independence, dignity, and purpose. And this really came to a fore when, after her retirement, she went to go find a former colleague, a teacher that she had worked with. She went to, as the folklore goes, she went to an address where she was able to find the person's name and number out of the white pages, knocked on the front door, and the folks there said, actually she lives around back. And as Ethel went around the back, she saw that her colleague is living in an old chicken coop, basically because of her inability to pay for some medical bills for some conditions that she had. This sort of motivated Ethel to think of the situation and how retired teachers especially were not being served by the insurance industry to help keep them living a high quality of life. So she set out to try to create basically what was to be a new product category, which was later life health insurance, which was not being served in the commercial or either in the public or the private space at that time. Eventually, she did work with Colonial Penn to create the first set of health insurance for retired teachers. And then after about 10 years, there was enough action and people asking for her to actually try to take that and expand the reach for all Americans that were over 65 and retired. One thing that I like to point out, too, is that when she founded AARP in 1958, she was actually 73 years old. And you'll see that theme of later life entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship come again as part of the Innovation at 50-plus initiative. So moving ahead, that's sort of the history of AARP. I'd like to give a couple minutes about how we're structured right now, because sometimes this helps people navigate the organization but also understand some of our activities. So the top area there, the biggest AARP, if you will, is our main not-for-profit arm. This area houses the activities that I do, but also our areas of membership, acquisition, and retention. I'm sure many of you have received our wonderful direct mail pieces. If any of you are over 49 and a half, I'm sure you're getting lots of solicitations to join. This is where our social impact and our advocacy areas are. Those are the groups that look at how we can improve society through influencing legislation and governmental bodies. This is where our publication is. If you are a member, you realize that you receive the AARP, the magazine, which is a highly regarded magazine. We actually have the largest circulation of a print magazine in the U.S. right now at about 22.5 million homes in a bi-monthly frequency, and the brand group of which I'm a part. Underneath that, we have AARP Services Incorporated. We refer to it as ASI lovingly, and they manage all of our commercial activities that relate to our member benefits and our relationships with corporations. Should any of the businesses that are on the phone now eventually begin to be distributed through AARP, that work would happen through AARP Services. And then finally, we have AARP Foundation. That's a pure charitable organization which not only fundraises but also administers grants from governments and other foundations, focused mainly on the quality of life for folks as we age, with a special focus on low income and people that are at economic risk. So as Laura mentioned, I'm part of the Thought Leadership Group. I like this this graphic a lot because it kind of positions the way we're looking at it. Yeah, I mean, thought leadership is kind of a heady title, no pun intended, and a little bit obnoxious in some circles. But I wanted to at least try to illustrate that we try to have a sense of humor about it. There always also seems to be a cocktail somewhere nearby when we're out and about. But what thought leadership means for AARP and what we're trying to accomplish is not only change the way that AARP is operating and the way that we approach certain problems, both at a societal level and maybe even a marketplace level, but also how we work internally and externally in interacting with other organizations and other constituencies. So what we're hoping to do with thought leadership is really a result from a challenge from our CEO to my boss, Jody Holtzman, which I think many of you have probably met at some point, to try to find new and different ways that AARP can achieve its social mission. As we looked across the organization, we wanted to make sure that we didn't repeat some of the more traditional thought leadership activities that we have going on. So we have people that are absolutely experts and that are shaping and influencing industries and policy around healthcare and Social Security and those sorts of issues. So we wanted to try to find areas where AARP might be able to move the needle to improve the quality of life for people and that we weren't currently working. And so after about a year's worth of analysis, we came up with two real impact areas that we think that we can actually work on. And so Laura did a great job of reading the first paragraph of this, so I'm not going to bore you with it again. But what we've come into is what we're calling the Innovation at 50 Plus initiative. And the two main areas of focus that we're looking on are both the areas of technology and where that affects the quality of life for people as they age, and then also later in life entrepreneurship and how we can promote people and promote their success as entrepreneurs as they age. What we're doing is we're trying to reach out to different constituencies that AARP hasn't worked with in the past. So, for example, we're interacting with entrepreneurs directly, but we're also trying to work on the other end of the spectrum with the investment community, such as venture capitalists and private equity. So I'll delve down a little bit more deeply on those two areas. So when we think of the future of technology in the 50 plus, the areas on this slide are really where we're trying to figure out how we can play a role in stimulating and encouraging more innovation, invention, and better awareness about certain subtopics that we think that are going to be very beneficial for folks as the demographics of the country age. So some of these concepts are things such as design for all, which we consider to be a design principle not unlike universal design, where products and services and even buildings are designed so that the maximum amount of people can interact with them, but also just a general sort of philosophy. The difference, I would say, between this and universal design is that we're trying to take it to the consumer more directly, such that it doesn't pick up the institutional stigma that universal design is. We're finding universal design has. Some examples, actually I'll get into some examples in a little bit later. Things such as connected living, which I'm sure most of you have thought about, is the interaction not only between person to person, but a generation to generation that are enabled by technology. Of course, this ties very closely into aging in place technologies. Again, Health 2.0, sort of this quantified self, and how do we use devices to measure how we are doing and then use data analysis to help affect better outcomes. And then again, multi-generational and intergenerational platforms. Our hope is to work on improving the efficiency of the marketplace and the innovation ecosystem to bring better solutions and opportunities to the forefront and to the marketplace in these areas. When we look at 50-plus entrepreneurship, we define that two ways, which is both entrepreneurs of any age that are building solutions that serve the needs and wants of the 50-plus, as well as people over 50 that are launching new careers, whether it be out of aspirational and achieving something that they've been planning on for their whole life. Once I retire, I would like to start a bed and breakfast or a dry cleaning or a catering service, or folks that are finding themselves because of the down economy and recession in a situation where they have to go out and hang out their shingle to make ends meet. So we're looking at different ways, and I have to admit that we're still on a little bit on the earlier area of earlier development cycle on how we can actually get into this and help these people along for this particular topic. But we're looking at ways where AARP can play a role in encouraging, stimulating, and helping entrepreneurs along. Now, I'm sure most of you are thinking that there's a great sort of Venn diagram where these two areas overlap, and that's not by coincidence. To a certain extent, we're trying to kill two birds with one stone in some senses. So a little bit more about Design for All. here's some examples that kind of happened to them in the marketplace. What's interesting about these two here really is the iPad and the Wii. One could argue that I think that it wasn't consciously that people, that the designers came up with these products aiming at an aging demographic, but because they incorporated some principles, probably a little bit with the aging demographic in mind, but also thinking about children and the dexterity, especially in the case of the Wii, they came up with products that were accessible to everyone. I'm sure many of you know sort of the anecdotes about the Wii and senior bowling leagues and senior living facilities. From all the research I've been able to do, that Nintendo never thought that would happen. It was sort of a happy accident. In terms of the iPad and the iOS system, the tablet platform itself is very accessible to people, but the way in which they design the interface makes it accessible to many people. Just Google 80-year-old and iPad, and I'm sure you'll find many interesting and enlightening examples on YouTube of older folks getting online for the first time. To help us try to move the needle in this space, because again, AARP is not a design shop and we don't actually manufacture things, we're looking to reach out to pair with large organizations and small ones to help talk about this principle and help them to adopt it and push it to maybe to the constituencies that they interact with. So, for example, we're forging a relationship with the Consumer Electronics Association. We're working with Sesame Workshop. We've reached out to IDEO, Frog, and some other design schools and agencies to try to just again embed this concept of when you're building something and designing something, if you take into the limitations but also the special unique needs of multiple constituencies, it'll end up being a better product that actually maximizes your market opportunity and can allow you to appeal to more people. In terms of entrepreneurship, this right now we're focusing more on a scholarship model and trying to encourage activity and draw a spotlight onto entrepreneurship, again, in both ways, for folks that are older in life that are starting companies, but also any company that's any new venture that is focusing on the needs and wants of the 50-plus. As Laura mentioned, AARP has been a long-term sponsor of Mary Furlong's franchise of conferences. We're great believers in both the way Mary has been able to bring this industry together and get it going, as well as the opportunities that come out of the conferences. I, too, would encourage anyone that has the means to try to get here to D.C. In late March to attend her conference. I've always found it to be a great experience and very enriching, and I've made some great contacts there. The demo conference is a new program that I'll get a little bit into in a couple minutes, so I'll leave that alone. And we've been working with MIT in several different areas, supporting their Media Lab, their Age Lab, and their enterprise forums, again, to try to draw some attention to this growing demographic, the market opportunities associated with it, but also trying to draw attention to the expertise that folks that have had long careers can bring to launching a venture. We're also building relationships with organizations such as the Kaufman Foundation, the Startup America Partnership. There's rich opportunities with both of those to create mentoring programs, so we're hoping to get that. Once we can perfect the model, we can bring those to bear. And we're working with the National Venture Capital Association. We're actually sponsors of their annual meeting in late April. Again, we'll have some time to talk about not only the market opportunities of the aging demographic, or what we're calling the longevity economy, but also to encourage backing of later life entrepreneurs. So I would love to delve a little bit more into the demo conference. The concept we piloted in September. For those of you that don't know about demo, it is a launch conference. It's about 20 years old. It's my understanding that they created this category of conferences which focuses on an entrepreneur or a startup having the opportunity to demonstrate their product or service in a limited time. In the case of demo, it's 6 minutes. My understanding is there's a TV show, which I really need to look up, I haven't seen yet, called Shark Tank, which follows this model. And basically a panel of judges, or perhaps an audience of venture capitalists and business press, then witness the demonstration, and ideally the company pulls it off, and it's a great opportunity and a great venture, and they get picked up and they get funding. The way this came about was I attended demo at the urging of a couple of venture capitalists who suggested that maybe we might try to do something similar in the 50-plus space. But once I saw the production quality and the community of demo that they've developed over the last 20 years, it occurred to me there's no way that AARP would be able to do that with any sort of credibility. So instead we decided to work with demo to create a way that we could draw focus and spotlight on our constituency and the market opportunities. And so we created the Innovation of 50-plus scholarships, whereby we, AARP, is a sponsor of demo, will cover the registration fees, which can run up to $18,000 for 2 companies that are selected by the demo and VentureBeat teams to demonstrate at their conference. So again, this is an effort on our part to try to lower the barriers that an entrepreneur that might be focused on the 50-plus will face as they try to get their company off the ground. The stipulation for the scholarships is that you either have to be focused on the needs and wants of the 50-plus, or you need to be a 50-plus entrepreneur on your own. I'm happy also to announce to all of you that we have re-upped our relationship with Demo. They have an upcoming conference in April, which will be in Santa Clara, April 17th through 19th, and we've actually increased the amount of scholarships from 2 to 3. So if any of you are in the process of finalizing a product that you're about to launch, there's a few stipulations that they have about how long a product or a service can be out in the market to still be considered launched at Demo. But I would encourage you all to go to demo.com if you think you're eligible and read the criteria, fill out an application on the site. Within the application process, there's a drop-down where you can select if you think you're eligible to scholarships. There are other scholarships that are available, too, if you're a woman entrepreneur. I know the Kaufman Foundation in the past has sponsored women entrepreneurs. And it'll go off to the VentureBeat team, and hopefully you'll be able to make it through the process. What we were most excited about was, and we didn't really know what happened, is that we ended up catching a fair amount of press out of the relationship with Demo. This is exciting to us because, again, it's shining a spotlight on the sort of things that all of you are doing, and hopefully it makes your job easier as you go out and try to talk to folks about what you're doing and the advantages of focusing on the aging and longevity economy. We also, in 2011, published a few research papers, one of which was by Lori Orlov, who's on the call right now. I see she has a link for it already on her website. Again, that focuses on design for all and the connected living aspect for it. Our Healthy at Home report was an update of a report that was done in 2009, focusing on, to a certain extent, the market demand for technologies that allow people to age in place longer. And we also did a partnership with AdAge talking about the 50-plus and where they were going. And there's some excellent data, market sizing data at the end of that report, if you will. Those are all available on our website. I'll have that URL later in the conversation. Oh, and there it is. So I'm way ahead of schedule. I tend to do this because I talk very fast, but I think it'll leave us lots of time for questions. Those reports are available at that first link there, aarp.org Innovation 50+. This is a web page that we've launched in late December to try to, again, to position ourselves as a go-to source for information. But you'll find our research there. We feature guest bloggers. We have an ongoing blog. It's a good way to keep track of our Twitter stream. Our hashtag is Innovation50. You can follow us on Twitter at AARP Tech, or my personal account is J Makowka. Again, if you want to apply, if you think you're eligible to apply for the At 50+ scholarship, please proceed to demo.com. I also want to mention that as part of our relationship with Demo, we are sponsoring meetups next week, February 8th and February 9th, for entrepreneurs. February 8th will be in the Boulder, Colorado area, and February 9th it will be in Menlo Park, Palo Alto. So if any of you are local to those areas, we'd love to have you come out. There should be some venture capitalists there as well. The VentureBeat team will be there, as well as Neil, the producer of Demo, and Jody and myself. So a great place to talk and kind of keep the conversation going. I'll post the links up for registration right now. And I'm happy to answer some questions. I see a couple that have been queued up here. I think, Laura, you can tell me which ones I should answer.
You can answer any of them. But why don't you go ahead and answer the first one there is who would we, well, I guess there's two questions. Does AARP actually provide distribution? And if so, who would somebody contact to do that?
Sure. So AARP itself doesn't, in terms of distribution, it's not as if we have warehouses where we stock and then pick, pack, and ship on behalf of companies. What we do is make available to our partner providers or other commercial entities that we have a relationship with. We allow them to access our member database under very strict conditions, and then access to our advertising properties within our website, magazine, and what we would, I guess, for lack of a better term, call a newsletter, the AARP Bulletin. Again, those relationships are managed through ASI. The best way, and I know people never believe me when I say this, but the best way to actually get to them is that last link on this slide that's displaying now, which is aarp.org/leads. It's a web form that everyone who does any interaction with AARP has to fill out, and it goes into a contact management database. When people tell me that, when people think that I'm just sending them on a wild goose chase, when I tell them that, I will say that we have a national relationship with Denny's Restaurant, a very rich and full relationship with them, and discounts for our members in their restaurants. That relationship started with a Denny's employee cold call, so to speak, filling out that form. So it is monitored, every lead is checked, and it is followed through. I will say this, that we are looking for things that fit into our strategic planning and our strategic roadmap for member benefits. So there are certain things that have popped up, great organizations that I think would be a great benefit to our members. I'm only one person, but we have not been able to bring to light just because it's not fitting in with the areas that we have lined out as our top priorities for the next couple of years. So I don't think anyone would ever say that AARP is an easy organization to get into and to work with. But you guys are entrepreneurs, and so you're used to a challenge. So I would encourage you to keep on us and keep us. So there's not one person I could point people to talk to within ASI, because they're organized by sort of line of business or product area. So it would depend on the folks, but the most centralized way is, again, to fill out that web form at /leads.
And can you describe a little bit more about, so when you talk about stimulating entrepreneurship and addressing the 50-plus market, can you describe a little bit more about how you do that on the other side, on the venture capitalist side? How do you choose which VCs to work with? I mean, how do you bring together a group of, I mean, I see how demo would be, but how do you bring together a group of potential investors?
Right. So we're not currently working directly with any venture firms right now, but what we have done and what my boss Jody has been doing for the last 8 or 9 months now is reaching out to the community as a whole. We started by doing a segmentation of firms that had already invested in portfolio companies that were, if not explicitly, at least implicitly related to aging. So that included a lot of healthcare funds that had that ended up investing in medical device type companies and that sort of thing. And we reached out to them to try to tell them about what we were up to. What we're finding now is once we started speaking to that sort of inner core of already naturally related firms, that through their networks and their syndications, we're finding that their syndicates rather, that we're finding that they're actually referring us to other people to talk about. One of the things that's been surprising to me since I took this role about a year ago is the actual receptivity of the investment community. When you start throwing around numbers like 100 million people and growing, $2.3 to $3 trillion in annual disposable income, their ears start to perk up. When you start talking about major industries that are ripe for disruption, such as healthcare delivery, such as mobility, such as personal communications, their ears start to perk up. And so what we're trying to do, again, is by influencing things at the association level through the National Venture Capital Association, but also hitting them at the Corporate Venturing Conference, which Jody will be at next week. We're finding that at a grassroots level, we're able to get to one-to-one to influence people, and the story's starting to spread. So what we hope that does on 2 levels is, one, for a company that's already focused on the 50-plus, once they get in the door for a pitch, that the venture capitalists are already primed and understand the space and are excited to get involved in it. When there are cases where maybe the VC knows about it, but the entrepreneur does not. One of our end goals, what we think would be a great success for us, would be to have amongst the other list of questions that a VC would ask an aspiring entrepreneur, what's your mobile strategy? How are you involved with social? How are you different? And how are you going to take over Facebook? Whatever. If another line would be, what's your 50-plus strategy? And so we're hoping that, and this is a theory that has yet to be proven, that if we get that going, entrepreneurs who perhaps would not have focused on the space, not to make your jobs harder for you folks that are on the call, but entrepreneurs that were not focusing on the space may start thinking about it at least, and the next time they go into someone and they're asked that question, they'll have an answer. It may be an answer that there is no play, but our hope is, again, to sort of at a guerrilla level start to spread the word.
Okay, can you, here's a question. Can you give some information on what Health 2.0 means?
Sure. I mean, I think there's a lot of different interpretations for that. It's a very buzzy word right now. What stuck with me is that with the development of new technologies that allow for an easy and somewhat an easy and automatic way for gathering quantifiable data about a person. With the advent of those new devices and connectivity that can gather that, there's a new ecosystem that's being built of being able to measure true patient compliance and outcomes as related to specific procedures and activities in the health arena. And so to me, Health 2.0 is sort of the convergence of not only technology, but also empowering patients to know about their own physiological condition, and for providers and even payers to be able to leverage data and data analysis to improve outcomes. I think that the end goal for what people are calling Health 2.0 is to try to turn our current healthcare model up on its head so that it's more for pay for performance rather than pay for procedure. And now what's interesting to me is without the ability to measure the success of a procedure or an activity or a lifestyle change, that you would never be able to prove that there was a correlation between an activity or a procedure and a good outcome. But with the new technologies that exist that can gather this data as it goes along, the theory is that we can now do that and start incenting people to change their behaviors.
Yeah, and I think Health 2.0 is still kind of in the process of being defined, right? I think that it's kind of really about the delivery of healthcare. It's just and the changes in the way that it is delivered. It's kind of taken on a series of meanings when I've heard it spoken about in different venues, like at mHealth. They talked about Health 2.0 a lot, and it was kind of they sort of threw it around in a lot of different ways when we talked about just the actual delivery of healthcare versus patient empowerment versus somebody actually managing their own chronic condition. So it's kind of an interesting term, interesting buzzword, along with some of the other buzzwords that were out there. I can't even remember the other ones that we were discussing that were, maybe connectivity is another one. But that's great. What is your timeline for some of your initiatives at AARP? Do you have goals such as how much amount of money by X date or impact X number of companies by X date?
That's a great question. We're still in the process of developing that sort of both the metrics for success as well as sort of what the scope of those metrics should be. As I mentioned, this is a completely new area and new communities that AARP is interacting with. To our knowledge, we couldn't find a corollary of an organization similar to AARP that wasn't actually after a profit motive, but was trying to stimulate and improve a particular industry. So we couldn't find benchmarks that we could work off of and against. The closest might be some of the environmental groups that were trying to create the green tech industry, I would say, maybe 10, 15 years ago. So our hope, we don't really have exact numbers where we'd love to see, 8 companies picked up and 4 exits within 5 years and those sorts of things and this amount of money. We do think that one of the interesting things that we would love to be able to demonstrate, at least to the venture community, would be a successful exit or a large liquidity event associated with this longevity economy, as we're starting to call it. One candidate might be, although it was an acquisition and terms weren't disclosed, was the acquisition of Vitality Glow Caps by NantWorks about a year ago. but since figures weren't disclosed, all we know is that the owners made a lot of money. But it's our feeling, and would love to hear feedback about this, is that if we can demonstrate a certain set of big things, that'll turn the investment community and draw their attention. But it's a great question. We're working on trying to get better about how we're going to quantify our own activities.
Okay, great. What is the best way to get in touch? I think you actually sort of answered this a little bit, but yeah. What's the best way to get in touch with AARP about a new service or product? Do you often host companies there, or do you do webinars with them to see new products?
So there's a couple different ways. I'm excited that there is a new internal movement, I would say, for AARP to try to get out of its comfort zone and start looking at both industries and companies that are newer, more innovative, and not in their mature state. The typical model for AARP would be to pick something that we thought was relevant for the 50-plus, find the biggest and most established player with the least risk, and then try to beat them up to get a good discount on the products and for our members. There's a movement inside the organization, which I'd like to feel that I can take a little bit of credit of starting to foster, is that that model's breaking down as the needs of people as they age are actually becoming more scattered and different and personalized. The best way probably is, there are a few ways though to get in and showcase new stuff. I'm one input. Some people have had better success with me than others. We're looking to build something what we hope to call AARP Labs, which would be something of an innovation area where we might be able to host either on a long-term or short-term companies that are interesting in sort of a non-endorsement model where they can come and showcase themselves and perhaps even be able to have access to a panel of our members and for testing and for our research and development. So I'm excited that concept, I actually have been able to talk about that, not been shut down by our legal group, but that'll probably be 6, 8, 10 months before that could ever come to fruition. Again, that leads form is an interesting way to get into the formal process. There are some people that are interested in looking at new things. I personally host a biweekly technology workshop where on occasion we'll bring in a company to sort of brief us on what they're doing. The audience for that particular work group is not people that are decision makers on product relationships, but more for the edification of the group as a whole. So there's a couple ways. I've been telling a lot of you this for a year now. We're working on ways to have better inputs from smaller companies and startups to help influence our thinking and hopefully take some people to scale.
All right, here's a question. Jeff, I realize this isn't specifically your team, but can you give an update on the current state of the various portfolios, like caregiving, health, and wellness, that are being implemented across AARP?
Sure. About a year and a half ago, or year and a half to 2 years ago, our new CEO came in and did a reorg of the organization. And one of the outputs of that process was a new portfolio structure within AARP that had the goal of integrating more of our activities into and having accountability to one portfolio leader that would span across the activities against a particular topic area. So we've been organized internally around 4 main topic areas. The concept is it's around the individual. So the portfolio names are my financial security or my money, my home and family, my health, and then my personal time. The way it's been explained to me is if you get those first 3 right, then you can start worrying about the 4th, kind of in that hierarchy of needs sort of format. So what we've done to a certain extent is a fair amount of segmentation and market research to find out what we believe our constituents are looking for and then put them into those buckets, if you will. So the My Home and Family portfolio, for example, holds intergenerational activity, grandparenting, caregiving, those sorts of activities. And the spirit is that one portfolio lead looks across AARP's activities from a policy and advocacy perspective, outreach and education, products and services, and even to a certain extent thought leadership, and coordinates to make and prioritizes those activities against a few set outcomes that are agreed upon throughout the organization. Examples of things that would fall into my money, it's financial security, protecting Social Security on an advocacy perspective, jobs and financial independence, financial planning, those sorts of things. My health is sort of what you would think it would be, both education and knowledge about how to stay healthy, tools and services to maintain healthy, as well as our relationships with our insurance providers. And then my personal time, in some ways, is the most fun. It's things like travel, my what's next, what will I be doing after I retire, entertainment, those sorts of things. And so there's a portfolio lead and a very small team which manages against these outcomes that have been sort of selected and promoted within the organization. And so they will sort of pull the strings of different groups within the organization to achieve those goals. Does that help, Joel?
Okay, great. Did Health 2.0 and capitated pay be similar, I guess? I saw the Health 2.0 website has many areas. Not sure if I understand that question correctly.
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm not sure what capitated pay means. I'm traditionally not a health guy, but I do my best. I could maybe get back to that.
Steve, why don't you post a little bit more information on that if you could? Here's one. Do you have any sort of certifications on products that you know work or that you support? Does AARP certify brands or products? Is that something that you do now, or if not, is it something that you're looking to do?
We've explored in the past an AARP sort of seal of approval, and it actually comes up probably every 3 to 4 years or so. What we found when we tested it last time, it was about 5 years ago, that it actually didn't play very well. As it turns out, and it could be that the consumer was just in a different space 5 years ago, it actually hurt sales of the things that were approved, so that didn't really benefit anybody. What we would like to do is to try to find a way, maybe partnering with a neutral third party to position sort of principles that we think are best for products. We'd love to develop a set of principles, and Lori's helped us out on the groundwork of this, for products that are best designed for all. We would love to build a coalition that would look across, maybe partnering with someone like Children's Television Workshop and other audiences and constituencies to build a set of design principles that we think make products truly designed for all. I think we're going to stop short of actually slapping our logo on things. Because as Joe Coughlin says, if you put the AARP label on a fire extinguisher, a 70-year-old is probably not going to buy it because they don't think they're old, and certainly a 40-year-old is not going to buy it because they know they're not old. And so, from a branding perspective, it can kind of cut both ways. In a certain sense, we do endorse things when they become part of our product portfolio. So our relationship with United Health Group and their Medicare supplemental insurance, they're able to license and use the AARP logo because we approve of the features of that particular product. But that's a much closer tie-in than just for us to develop like a certification process and have people go through it.
Here's a question. Do you ever envision an AARP award program? So like some sort of AARP awards for cool products that you're talking about for or by 50 plus instead of certification awards, but it would be like AARP awards? Is that something that anyone has ever thought of?
I mean, to a certain extent, the Sterling Awards, of which you were a recipient, was a first pilot into that space. We're intrigued about perhaps formulating a deeper relationship with CEA and maybe becoming part of their Innovation Awards program that takes place sort of at the CES level, the higher level of the Consumer Electronics Show. Our editors within our magazine will pick some top 10 sort of lists of products in certain categories. An award might be an interesting concept. I'm not sure we've thought that all the way through. I'll take that down.
Okay, cool. Here's another question here. Jeff, do you envision even deeper involvement by AARP in helping 50-plus entrepreneurs in future, possibly including incubators or seed investment?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So we're currently at the same time working on a couple different initiatives where we'd love to build a toolkit of products and services that would enable people to be more successful as they launch businesses, whether they were focused on the 50-plus or not. Direct seed investment by AARP would probably not happen, but I have heard in the hallways talks of maybe perhaps trying to partner with a large organization or a large foundation and help maybe work on creating programs that would specifically look for 50-plus entrepreneurship and give them some startup capital or seed money to get going. It's absolutely something that we're looking at. We're trying to find the best way to play in here, again, because this is new content for us to figure out. and what the best way to sort of achieve our goal of getting more activity in this space without sort of harming people at the same time with unintended consequences. But it's absolutely something we're thinking about, and we hope to bring a platform to market that'll help people be better entrepreneurs.
Okay, and can you speak to the reception you've received at some of the large design firms when encouraging design for all? And as a second question to that, is design for all, is that the same thing as the sort of livable design concept?
They're very similar, and to a certain extent, the Better Living Design coalition that's being formed out of our education outreach with industry outreach is very similar. I think you can kind of say that they coexist very peacefully. The Better Living Design concept, as I understand it, is focused much more on sort of house and home design as well as home products, where we're thinking design for all could maybe be a larger umbrella that could fit from anything from the way that BMW designs its seats and its heads-up display on their new cars, and their early crash detection, to something as small as a tablet device. The reception from the large design firms so far has been very warm. I think in some ways, as I get to know design firms, I'm certainly not a designer, they love to try to think of things at these macro levels and try to solve for as many problems as they can at one time. So the reception that we've gotten through conversations with Dave Kelly at IDEO is that's the way we try to design anyway, but any time that we can bring that to the forefront, we'd love to do that. And so so far it's been warm. What we need to do, I think the responsibility on AARP and our partners is to come up with a set of guiding principles that we can really try to get out into the market. And that's something that's been coming up a lot lately, and we've got to get down to task and do.
Well, and that makes so much sense, too, because I believe it was, I think it was Lori Orloff that I heard say that nobody really wants to trip on a rug or fall down the stairs. So it kind of makes sense that all of us would kind of like the notion of, and I hate to even use the word universal design, but just because everyone knows what that means, I will, which might be more of the livable design concept. But everybody kind of wants to have a comfortable living environment and be able to fit through their doorways no matter what, whether it's with a baby stroller or with a wheelchair or a walker or just walking through with grocery bags. I think it's a good thing for everybody, and I think the iPad actually did a really good job of doing that, where you've got 1-year-olds to 90-year-olds using the iPad, and it's really designed for anybody and everybody to use that. So I think it's kind of a new phenomenon, and I don't think that people really have a stigma, found it that there's a stigma to it. As far as I've seen, I think the stigma is when you design it for 55 less.
Agreed. Yes. Yeah. Agreed.
Does AARP stand behind, we've got time for one more question here. Does AARP stand behind any technology standards to ensure interoperability among systems?
At this time, I don't think we're qualified to make that call. We're watching sort of from the sidelines the development of sort of AMP Plus and the Continua platforms and such, but I'm not qualified. We're not an engineering shop to be able to. I stand by the concept that interoperability is absolutely essential for any of this ecosystem to get off the ground. We're very excited about the role that systems integrators are going to play in the future, sort of bringing this together for people and putting a face on the technology. I think that the thought of just kitting up things and drop shipping them to a 65-year-old's house to have them self-install, while it sounds good on paper, I think what's going to be needed is sort of the expertise of someone in the middle to help them to assess what they need and then get it running and then provide support, because I provide support for my folks. They're 67, and it's not a small task, and then they're very tech savvy. So, but I don't have I can't say that we support one standard over another. We're just not, and we're just not in that space.
Well, and I think, too, with interoperability, it's just the notion that everything is going to be connected. So do you have any sort of working relationship with the Continua Alliance at this point?
Not at this point, no.
Okay, so and I would recommend taking a look at the Continua Alliance, because that's what it's all about, is interoperability, platforms, nothing being an island, everything using the same standard protocol. So the idea of protocol-driven solutions like Bluetooth and some standard, staying away from the proprietary protocols and going to standardized protocols so that we can all communicate with each other and everything can be interconnected. And I think that's the route that things are going anyways. But the Continual Alliance is what is behind that, so I would definitely check that out. Okay, well, thank you so much. Do you have anything else you want to mention? I don't see any other last questions here that will take less than a minute to answer here. So thank you so much, Jeff, for speaking with us today. This was really interesting to hear more about what AARP is doing, and it's actually enlightening to hear all of the innovation and the entrepreneurial activity that is going on within AARP. I did not know that. Next webinar is actually not next week. We do it the first and third Thursday of every month. So next webinar is February 16th, 2012, and it's Customer Engagement 2012, Leveraging Social Media and Online Communities to Expand and Retain Your Customers. And Ron Repking is going to be speaking with us. So same time, same place. We'll see you then. And Jeff, if anybody wants to sort of get in touch with you, they just go through the aarp.org/leads, or how do they, or they follow you on Twitter, or what is the best way?
Twitter, or actually, I'm sorry, I never went to my final slide. That's my email address, and yeah, happy to keep the conversation going. My pleasure.
Okay,
thanks
great.
for having me.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much, Jeff.
Thank you.